1, Town Board Workshop. Please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So tonight's our workshop, and that's where the town board gets together and discusses various town issues. Tonight, we are going to be discussing with our traffic engineers, Hudson Valley Engineering Associates, different traffic possible projects coming to the town, and also we are going to have our town board workshop on the agenda. So I don't have any comments except to tell you my comments will be at the voting meeting. So how are you, Brendan? How's everybody? Hudson Valley Engineering here to give us a nice presentation to show us what's going on, and the floor is yours.
Sure, thanks, Nick. Brendan Fitzgerald from HVDA, Jack Gordon, one of our project managers, works on a lot of the projects here in the town with me. But there was really, just like sort of the three things that we were going to touch on tonight were give you an update about 52 and Auditorium Drive and John Jay High School, some of the projects that we've been working on there to mitigate some of the issues. Talk a little bit about the potential Hamlet projects and some of the funding applications that we assisted in putting in this round of call for funding, and then the 52 traffic corridor study that we've been doing for a little while that we're about to finish up for you. That's from Blue Hill Road up to just past the Conning. So I just wanted to give you an update on those three things. I think what we're going to do is going to sort of give you a little a little background on each of those three things, and then instead of going all the way to the end to have questions, maybe I'll, on each section, if you guys have questions, and if you don't understand something, or you want to ask me a question, just interrupt me, but we'll do it that way, I think it would be the most efficient. So, first, 52 down by John Jay, obviously everyone is aware of the traffic issues, especially when school is coming in the morning and letting out in the afternoon. A lot of surrounding development, a lot of things going on at the redevelopment of the IBM complexes and other developments that are happening in that area. Some of them have been completed already, some of them are ongoing, some of them are about to be started, but a lot going on down there. But we spent a good amount of time collecting a lot of data. We did traffic counts. We got traffic counts from all the other consultants that did traffic studies in that area. We pulled all that data together. Even in this area, we actually went out and took some drone video to see what was going on. We can switch the slide. In a lot of cases, on 52, many of the consultants that have submitted traffic impact studies to the town, they've analyzed this area and using Synchro, using certain software that they really can't mimic the problem that's occurring down there. So we wanted to make sure that we understood it and why it was happening. So we actually we have a drone that we use. We took the drone up and took about a half-hour video during that 7 a.m. to 7:30 time frame to watch the traffic for that full half hour and see what was going on and what was creating these backups that really weren't able to be modeled well. So we did that. That helped us immensely. So what we've done though is we've moved on from the standard in the industry is to use a program called Synchro, which does a very good job of analyzing individual intersections, but it doesn't do a very good job of evaluating corridors. It doesn't do a very good job of being able to calibrate it to particular specific things within a certain corridor. So we've switched over to using a program called VISM. It's the absolute state-of-the-art traffic modeling and simulation software. It allows you to put driver characteristics, road characteristics. You can model signalized intersections with non-signalized sections, full corridors. It's a very powerful program. So we took the info that we learned from the drone photography and used it to help us adjust things in this VISM model. We built a model. And if you look at this model, you can see the simulation running. You can see the backups from John Jay going up to Palin Road and beyond. So, I don't know if you know. see if we can zoom in a little bit to sort of see. But Jack can use his cursor a little bit to kind of show that. But it was really, it was such a valuable correlation tool. So we were able to get this existing model to really, really replicate the condition that happens in that problem time frame. So once we did that, we were comfortable that we had built a really solid model for this segment of the corridor. After that, it just kind of becomes a numbers game in that we can try to figure out solutions and adjust traffic accordingly and see what it does to the corridor. So in this case, we developed, we came up with some ideas of some solutions. We moved beyond this one. Now I got locked up. But
So before you get to the solutions, Brendan, I just want to remind everybody that this came about, this mitigation plan, Route 52 traffic mitigation plan, when the town was considering the development of the West Campus, which, as everybody knows, Amazon got approved and is in the midst of construction. So with that, during the public hearing for the planning board and actually the town board, residents' concerns were traffic. So we discussed with our in-house engineers and our engineering consultants about our Route 52 traffic mitigation plan. And this is the nuts and bolts of it. There's 3 parts of it, and they're going to walk us through it, correct?
Sure. So, one thing, I think that's a concept that's been around a little while is trying to connect a bypass road from 52 out to 84, since that's a decent-sized movement. Plus, if you can create that bypass, some of the intersections that have a lot of stress right now, mainly being 52 and Pound Road, 52 and Limeville Road, it'll help ease up traffic in those areas. So, finally, as you said, Nick, with some of these projects, that's coming to fruition. So we're going to be able to create that bypass road on what was originally called Auditorium Drive and South Drive. Of course, they're going to have some different names eventually.
So I could let the public know now, the town is going to rename that road Patriot Way in honor of John Jay, is right next door, so.
That's to let everybody know. So, one of the things that, in order to make this bypass function, is to actually have a fully functional intersection at Auditorium Drive and 52. So the concept that we developed for that, we looked at a traffic signal, but what seemed to make the most sense, and from a traffic operations perspective, was a roundabout. And we did coordinate this with the DOT and looked at this option. This is a really good option for handling traffic there, especially, it's kind of an equal opportunity intersection. It adjusts to the demand. It's capable of handling the traffic volumes that are out there, and it's going to just make traffic flow for that situation much better. Now, putting in the roundabout and diverting some of the traffic off of 52 to 84, that helped, but it didn't solve the problem entirely, because what happens at John Jay, there's just so much traffic coming to one spot, and there's only one way to get in and one way to get out, and it's buses, it's faculty and staff, and it's students and drop-offs. They have about 250 drop-offs in the AM.
Wow.
To drop students off, so a big number of people dropping it off. So that led us to see we got to find another way to accommodate that, and what came out of that was to develop a secondary drop-off along Auditorium Drive, Patriot Way, essentially, and there's some area along Auditorium Drive where there's enough of an area that could be graded to provide a little loop, basically a little loop road that you can either approach from either direction. We're going to leave enough room on Auditorium to have a left turn lane into the drop-off area, have a good length of curb and sidewalk line to be able to drop students off, a few parking spaces to accommodate some people that might have to wait or might take longer to drop a child off, and then get right back onto the network, and they can even head right back to 84 and not have to go back out to 52. But this allows traffic to, even the traffic that's trying to get into John Jay, to just bypass that signal and come down to what would be the new roundabout and circle around and go to this drop-off.
So Brendan, is that kind of like an airport drop-off where you pull in,
Yep.
drop somebody off to go to the airplane, and, right, similar?
And continue on. So we did leave a good, if you see, it looks long, because, we good stretch of curbing there. And so then we started to play around with the numbers of taking some of those morning drop-offs and say, we didn't want to put them all there because, you know, that might not be realistic, so we put 100. And we put 100 drop-offs and left 150 at John Jay, and that had a dramatic effect on that half hour from 7 to 7:30. And we were able to sort of reduce the queues to the point of where the long left turn lane there, you know, it would function for that, and we wouldn't see those backups all the way back to Palin. And then, you know, we increased it even more. I think we went up to like 170 cars, and then we put all 250 in there. And you put all 250 in there, it works really well. But this is going to offer the school some flexibility of, if they want to, you know, just leave it to let the demand sort of take care of itself, where they would just see how it would operate and who would start to use it, and let people sort of choose the location on their own, or they could even, you know, mandate that all the drop-offs in the morning go there. So they have that enough flexibility. But that really, you know, really solved the problem here. So that was, you know, we look at that as being a really good solution. Now, one thing that's happened in this corridor, there's been some projects like Orthopedic Associates, Florey's gas station there now. Those projects, when they came through the planning board process, they were required to put sidewalk out in front of those developments. But there are still a few segments of, you know, a few areas along the corridor that do not have sidewalks. And as you guys all know, some of the students park down at the soccer complex and have to walk up to the high school. So to be able to fill in the sidewalk network on 52, we look at that as being a good priority too. It's not part of the sort of the development of the roundabout and the drop-off area, but this is a project that we did put in for the TAP application at the end of September. We think we put in an application, assisted the town in putting in an application for, I think, a little bit more than maybe 1.6 million, to try to fill in all these sidewalk locations. It's a strong application. Certainly it creates safer routes to the school. You can even service those adjoining communities. It would fill in the segments from the soccer complex up to Orthopedic Associates, from Orthopedic Associates up to the gas station, from the high school entrance up to Stone Ridge, the proposed Stone Ridge Commons, and then we were looking at filling in the network from the proposed secondary drop-off around the south side of 52 to the high school. So there was a sidewalk network that would connect that, so the students could use that little loop too.
Excellent.
So that's you know, that we you know, we're hoping that that application would be successful, and we can fill in all those little gaps.
Are those the sidewalk intersection signalized? Will they have like signals there for crosswalks?
For the roundabouts?
No, for the crosswalks, for the sidewalks.
So the crosswalk that exists right now, you know, does work with that signal that's there at John Jay.
Right.
Right.
So I'm just thinking, because I know a lot of seniors or juniors that don't get parking permits park at our soccer complex and then walks down.
Right. So that would enable them to use the sidewalk network to get all the way down to the crossing right in front of the school.
So they cross at the school, which has the signal.
It has a signal,
And
right.
then there'll be a sidewalk continuous all the way to the soccer
Now,
complex.
if they chose, now we're going to,
Mike-
the roundabout itself is going to actually have pedestrian crossings on all
That's
the
what I was
lanes.
gonna ask, because that's gonna encourage them now, because it's gonna be closer, because there's gonna be a way to get
Yeah.
in through the side, so as long as there's a crosswalk or something there.
Right, there'd be crosswalks on all the legs of the roundabout. They're not signalized, but understanding how the roundabout works, and we even, you know, at some point in time, we can share some drone footage of other roundabouts in the Hudson Valley that we've taken some video of to demonstrate to other clients of how we're using pedestrians. Really understand the roundabout concept is the cars are slowing down to, you know, 15 to 20 miles an hour. So they're going slow, and they only have to cross sort of one lane at a time.
Right.
So, and they only have to look for cars in one direction
Right.
when they're crossing. So it's a pretty safe crossing. If you've been around the ones on 55 or Raymond Ave, you can see how that one
So
is.
do you think that in the morning when those kids, they park at the complex, cross on those roundabout crosswalks, will create a backup of traffic at Route 52?
No.
No, there's
It's
not that many kids.
So,
It's not a lot. It's like maybe like 20 cars.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even the, you know, the way you know roundabouts kind of function is it's sort of slow and steady. You know, everyone's going slower, but there's a steady movement of
Never
cars.
stops, right?
And for someone to really, it's a car pausing to let that person cross that lane. And when you watch it, you'll see it's pretty amazing how, like, you know, it's a few seconds. It's not like a whole cycle of a signal. So it's very efficient to get, you know, whether it be a single student or a few kids walking together to cross the road. But then they would cross, and I think they would come up and go into the new entrance if that's the
They
case.
also want every roundabout in terms of if there's an incident, the type of incident, you know, roundabout as far as vehicular conflict.
Right.
Roundabout versus a.
Regular intersection, right. Just and maybe Jack would help me in terms of the points of conflict, but there's you know, in a regular intersection, something like 32 points of conflict, and in a roundabout, there's only 8 points of conflict.
Oh, look at that.
Again, because you're looking one direction, so it reduces that number of conflict points. And,
Right.
And also the intensity, right, if there is a conflict.
Right, it's much, like I said, the traffic, the idea of a modern roundabout is to slow traffic down to being less than 25 miles an hour. It's not, you know, the big traffic circle concept. These are small, compact, they have splitter islands that direct the traffic, slow it down, and you know, that even if there are accidents, there will be accidents, you know, no, you can't kid yourself to say there won't be any, but there will be accidents, but they'll be a lot less severe. There won't be that T-bone accident, there won't be a high-speed accident, it'll be a fender bender, and in most cases, you won't even see personal injuries, any accidents that are occurring in these roundabouts.
The roundabout that you're putting in, that's big enough to get the real vehicles through?
So,
For no other terminology?
one of the requirements of DOT was that, you know, occasionally, we know, Route 84 closes down, and sometimes truck traffic even gets diverted.
Yes.
So, one of their requirements was that this roundabout could pass the WV 67, which is an interstate tractor trailer. So,
Right, because you see
it's
some
not
of
that
these,
they
they're not
They
big.
can go around the whole circle, they're gonna have to off-track.
They'll mount it.
They'll mount the roundabout, but
So that's what it's designed to do.
it's designed.
But it's just like the ones in Arlington, right? Those are all mountable, and
Right.
where a truck goes through there, they have to mount
Yeah.
it.
And there's been some improvements about, you know, so in terms of the curb lines and how you slope them so that they are, you know, that they're respected by cars, but the trucks don't have as much of a difficult time negotiating. Because sometimes you know, the truck drivers complain about the curb heights and have to really slow down or jostle their trucks. So I think there's certainly been improvements, and we're incorporating that in our roundabout designs now. So we can switch on. I think the last thing on this one I just wanted to touch on, which is some schedule stuff. Right now, we're a few weeks from submitting a set of roundabout plans to the DOT for a 60% review. Because it's a state highway, there's going to be the DOT's going to have to issue a highway work permit to build the roundabout. We're working through some land dedications, and you know, ultimately the right of way for the roundabout will end up getting donated to the DOT. That's going to happen after it can be built. Then we're looking to get you know, a set of construction documents done by the end of the year, so that's ready to go out to bid and, you know, be constructed in 2022 to coincide with the completion of the Amazon development, the dedication of the bypass road. So the idea is to get this roundabout in that same time frame, so that as you start to see the impact of some of that development, the mitigation will be there. And I think soon after that, then, you know, you would see the development of that secondary drop-off. Still some coordination to be done with that. Just wanted to indicate to you the TAP grant, the Transportation Alternatives Program funding that was applied for. That in early 2022 is when they expect to make those determinations. So, you know, we'll find out and be able to report back to you to see the success of that application.
It might all work out together.
It might, right?
Yeah.
You never know. It'd be great when a plan comes together.
Right, absolutely.
So we'll, you know, and again, I think the fact that the town has initiated some of this work, we were able to demonstrate that in the application process, so I think that goes a long way. And then, you know, schools and safety of students is one, I mean, it used to be the Safe Routes to School program. That's what that TAP program is now. That Safe Routes to School program got absorbed by that program. So, you know, that's one of the primary objectives of that program is for those routes to school. All right, I'm gonna, any other questions about that stuff in that area. I mean,
Well, with the school, I did meet with the school superintendent several times to discuss this project. They're very happy about it. They're fully endorsing the project, so much that where they would have the school drop-off that would connect to the back of the school, they are already putting in their budget for next year to build a vestibule for the children that would enter the school from that school drop-off zone. So that's how much they think this is going to help. Like Brendan said, that it's one way in, one way out, all the traffic, so this can only help, can only help.
Yeah, it's, you know, we worked on a project over in New Paltz by the New Paltz High School, a much smaller school district even, and they ended up creating a secondary access point there. I mean, we put left turn lanes on the road there, but that's, you know, the same kind of thing. I mean, the school needs another outlet. You know, they absolutely do. It's the only way it's gonna ever have a chance of functioning properly.
Right.
You know? All right, I was gonna switch gears and move to the Hamlet, and
Any other questions or comments from the board? No?
just give you an update on the stuff in the Hamlet. I think we came in front of the town board, it was probably at least 3 years ago now. Time flies, right? But we gave you a sort of an overview of some concepts for handling traffic in the Hamlet. You know, with these objectives of you know, reducing delay, improving safety, creating better pedestrian access, enhancing the aesthetics of the sort of the Hamlet Center, and then making connections, a primary connection of connecting Hopewell Glen into the Hamlet. So that's where we started. I'm just gonna, maybe many of you or all of you have seen the concept plan for 82 through the Hamlet. So this is basically extending Governor's Boulevard down into the Hamlet with a road with sidewalks, and then installing a couple of roundabouts, one at Trinka and one at Unity, to create that traffic circulation. Right now, as everyone knows, there is just the center left, dual left turning lane. Traffic is on 82 is approaching 20,000 cars a day. When you get to that level of traffic, that type of system doesn't work very well. Since this development happened over a long period of time, the access control for all the development along 82 is a little bit all over the place. Lots of driveway cuts, lots of friction on the side of the road. So this concept is to raise the median, have a raised median, and two roundabouts, be able to circle traffic back and forth. Actually decreases traffic time in the corridor, regardless of what side of the road you're going down, because you can easily do a U-turn at the roundabout. Now we have, and will continue to explore, different connections of Governor's Boulevard down to 82. We've even looked at connecting at the Unity entrance, or now that the lumberyard is no longer with us, there's some opportunities to tighten up that and even lessen some of the environmental impacts of the adjoining wetland. But another important concept that we've been looking at and developing here is installing these service roads behind the existing businesses. They're kind of shown in that reddish color, behind the existing businesses. Looking at this from the perspective of deliveries and service vehicles, and FedEx and everything that gets delivered by Amazon these days, to remove some of that traffic from 82, or where they can make stops, to multiple businesses without even having to be on the primary road network. So that concept is on both sides of the road, and it really, we think that has a large potential, of looking to connect from 376 out to Trinka, but controlling the access on Trinka so that the traffic had to go back out to 82, couldn't go into the neighborhood or anywhere else. You control that, so it would just make its way back out to 82.
It would also help during construction. Right?
Sure.
In phase one, because
Right.
Yeah, it's key for those businesses to have that access road to continue business during construction, so.
So as I mentioned, at the end of September, we assisted the towns applying for in this case, it was a CMAQ grant, which is a congestion mitigation air quality improvement program. They, this is the second time the town has submitted for this. Last time, the DOT beat you out with a roundabout in, the roundabout that's going by the airport right now.
Wappingers, yeah.
So,
Wappinger.
DOT-sponsored project, but this is a really strong application. We have worked, we've been working on this Fishkill Road project for a while, so we've been able to develop stuff to be able to supply with the project. We've vetted out environmental things, we've been vetted out the right way that would be required to build the project. We've looked at the traffic extensively, and we've done a lot of that coordination with the DOT. So, and then it actually has a lot of support. The DOT's been shown this project. They like it. The county has seen the concept plans. The county likes it. So it's endorsed, by people even outside of the town. So that's important. And then one other thing about this program, it's in the Hudson Valley, Dutchess County is the only county that competes for the open competitive money. So there's 60 million, or is it 48 or 60? 48 million statewide. But in the Hudson Valley, the counties like Rockland and Westchester, they get formula money for air quality. They don't compete, their projects don't compete for this $48 million pot of money. So there are other areas of the state, like Syracuse, Buffalo, there are other areas that compete for it. But in the Hudson Valley, Dutchess County is it. And I think this is probably a primary project that sort of fits within the funding levels that program offers. The next sort of complementary project to this one, again, concepts that we've looked at, was developing 2 more roundabouts at the 376 interchanges or intersections. These roundabouts are shown as being offset, so that certain movements you don't actually have to go through the circle; you can actually bypass it. So if you were coming into the hamlet, you would go through a circle, but then the second circle you could bypass. And if you were leaving the hamlet, you would go through the first circle, the second circle you could bypass. Mm-hmm. So it just improves, it's a mechanism of improving efficiency. This project was also submitted in that CMAQ program. It's not likely that it's going to be funded, but basically part of the rationale for submitting it was to show that there was a broader concept, and that it was, that we were looking at the corridor as a whole, so we thought it actually supported the other application in that regard.
Can you give an example for the public and for the board? How much do these projects actually cost?
Yeah, in the CMAQ program is capped at $5 million, right?
Yeah.
Even the project that we're proposing, the primary project, that price tag, I think we have about $6.5 million. So that's that's the cost of these roundabouts. The roundabouts are in the realm of about $1.5 million each. Here, part of some of the cost-saving things that we looked at was to create the project within the existing curb lines. So it's going to raise the median, it's going to add some sidewalk onto the side of 82 that doesn't have sidewalk, but we're going to do that within the confines of the existing curb lines. They're expensive. The roundabouts that we show with 376, they're a little bit bigger, but that project doesn't include all the other, doesn't
Bypass road, the back
bypass
roads, right.
roads. So I think we estimated that at a little over $4 million for those other 2.
And there's a split for the town, correct?
It's a 80-20
80-20,
program.
okay.
You can any other program that offers funding that's not federal funded, you can look to try to find funding for that local match.
Just like we did for Carroll Drive Bridge.
Right. Or if you find any other state program or any other program that can offer funding for this type of project that you have, you can use that as your local match, as long as it's not another federally funded program.
So we wouldn't go through the transportation improvement program, none of that?
Right.
Because that's all federal funds.
That's all, well, not all of it. I mean, there's state parts of it, but I mean, if there's, there are, even for sidewalk or there are lots of other, funding avenues. And if something did come up, you can apply for it and use it as a match. And many entities are doing that. And then I wanted to point out too that, the roundabouts improve traffic efficiency. So that's why the air quality thing, right? We're gonna have less cars idling, no one's gonna be stuck in long queues. So that's the air quality benefit. There's also the addition of sidewalk and the pedestrian connections, like connecting up, 300 home development.
Give walkability.
Walkability, and that, maybe you're gonna reduce the number of trips that people are gonna use. And then even the sidewalk itself, that length, and the sidewalk itself, plus it actually also provides another connection opportunity to the Dutchess Rail Trail, quote unquote, the Empire Trail.
Yeah, that's
which,
great.
Within the state is a big deal. They want to connect up that trail.
Absolutely.
As many towns and hamlets that they can. That's the concept of that Empire Trail. So that's why we think it's a particularly strong application.
Well, now, soon after they do the bridge project, when the road is at grade, people could just leave the rail trail and walk straight down 82 into town, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So Brendan, a couple of questions. If we get all the approvals as far as funding and everything else with this project, you are actually mentioned that Route 82 will be the primary roundabouts that we plan to do.
The first two.
First
To the left, yeah.
Optional, if we get all the funding, we'll also do 376.
That would be a separate application.
Separate, okay. But that's secondary to the.
This
the
was
main
first,
project.
right?
This is the master plan area.
Correct. So if we were to start the Route 82 project, would you say that we would kind of build the two roads first prior to start the project? Or, so to alleviate some of the traffic?
In terms of the service roads?
Correct.
Yes, that's exactly what Scott brought up. That would be the concept, to do that as a sort of an initial stage, to be able to help let those businesses to keep doing their business and to help reduce some of the traffic. There, if anyone got to watch some of the, the roundabout construction that's happened in the Hudson Valley, it certainly all construction has impact, I would say, but, they do build these things in sort of pie shapes and pieces at a time, and then all of a sudden you have a roundabout. AJ can attest that, even the 131 project that we worked on together, where that was a divergent diamond interchange, it didn't actually become that type of interchange until the day was opened, and, it's sort of like someone flipped the switch, and now we have a different kind of interchange. So these get built in pieces, and then, they're able to get opened up, sometimes temporarily, and then other pieces are finished, but, the traffic is still gonna be able to run down 82, it's not gonna.
So, I'm sorry, the councilman's concern is that, so we have an economic development committee with local businesses, and we presented this to them before just to give them a heads up, would you, on what could potentially happen. And they have all indicated that that bypass road is instrumental for their businesses. So that has to be a must first. So I'm sure that's what you were alluding to, right, Councilman?
And the bypass road will remain afterwards, right?
I would say,
It will remain as that service road, where, again, like I said, deliveries and FedEx trucks and everything else can use that.
That's great.
Keep some of the.
That's really good.
It'll also keep a lot of traffic
Gonna
out
mitigate
there.
a lot.
I mean, people live back there, whatever, they wanna get out of the town and not have to go through 82.
if they don't have to go to town,
Right.
right, yeah.
So, let me just ask this question, not to put you on the spot, but if you know, being that it's federal funds, I know oftentimes if you want to know about easements in place. So for that service road, we're gonna need to acquire easements. Is that something that potentially will hang up project as a whole, or can it be phased? I mean, we've thought about that.
Yeah,
So we
no,
can plan on
right.
that stuff.
Right, no, I think that is something that should be thought about. I mean, I think the last slide I have here is about the schedule, and it's just really that, again, if it was a successful project, these determinations aren't going to be made until sometime in early 2022. This project would be probably, that program is a 2-year program. You got to progress into construction within 2 years. This project would probably take that length of time to do that, but I think, we have time to do that. But that's even something.
But is that like a requirement before you're able to sign on the line, all your easements?
If it's gonna be included as
Be
a
a work in progress.
As part of that, if it's gonna get included as part of that construction project, yeah, it would need to happen, prior to going to construction.
So we have to start looking at property acquisition possibly very soon.
Or just easements even, it can just be an easement, it can just be an easement for the purpose of that service road.
Right.
So, pursue that with the understanding if the grant comes through, at least we've got all that.
Absolutely,
Be
absolutely.
executed once
And there's
we-
some things, over the next few months and over the winter, we can on some of those things, some of those longer term things, it's good to start.
Well, we
thinking
need to
about
start getting a survey out there,
Yeah.
descriptions, meets and bounds, and what it is
Exactly.
going
So
to
some of
require.
We do have a lot, even, when this, the DOT is still a partner in this project in a certain way in that they had allocated some funding when it was, Fishkill at Palin. They had allocated some funding for that.
Right.
Moved off their program, but, I think that they still made a commitment and I think that was $2 million that they did at the time.
Very nice.
So, as this project progresses to be becoming more of a reality, we want to pull that in. And sometimes, again, it could be a separate funding source that does different parts of the work. But I think it's an important question. You wouldn't want to lose sight of that, because if the property owners are in favor of that, that's something you can start working on. Even in the scenario where it didn't happen for a longer term, or it didn't happen at all, it's not going to hurt anyone, because it's an idea.
And similar to that is our DEC permits, right? So that would apply to that as well. You want to know that our deed for that wetland.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, we have done, obviously, that has to happen at the time when the scenario is big, but we actually went to New Paltz to meet with the DEC and talk about some of the environmental concerns. And really, we'll do things in construction to limit impact in terms of using walls and not fill slopes, and they were concerned about connectivity, so, that waterway would need a small bridge, and we might need the need to put some other crossings across that
I
connection.
don't know if that's something we need to go up again.
So Brendan, one other
Go to
question.
Albany, right.
And that it doesn't become a fire drill at the end.
Right.
I think it's easier for everybody for ahead of it, rather than, we got this deadline.
Yeah, permitting, easements, everything, get it ahead of time.
Right away is the Achilles heel on most jobs, so that is a primary importance. The environmental permits, they're from our perspective, we can push our way through those better. Sometimes the right of way is what really gets us, but again, all of those things that take time. A lot of these projects now, we spend the majority of the time on process and regulation as opposed to actually the design work to get them done.
Right.
So Brendan, the other question, I remember when we were doing the project on Lake Walter Road and 376. At what point should we have meetings with the community to really see where they want to go with this? I remember also over there, the state got involved and they did presentation, and then they had to choose whether they want the roundabouts or the light.
Right.
They turned the roundabouts down. Do we have to go through a similar process over here? We don't need to go that way.
No, we applied for the CMAQ grant for the roundabouts.
But also, I thought environmental or historical played a part in that roundabout with the archaeological.
Over by Robinson Lane.
Right. I thought that played a part.
I think there was other things too.
But there were some
there is-
easements
there is-
also over there.
Understand though, there is a public participation component to any job. Certain ones that have,
And we've had some preliminary outreach to the community on these already.
right, and I think, that would still happen. I think, it's not, in that case, the DOT did develop different alternatives. And, a different alternative was chosen in that case. That happens on some projects. I think here, the concept of what's trying to be created is, a much more efficient flow of the traffic, a walkable hamlet, where you can park your car and walk to get a cup of coffee or a newspaper, or sit down for dinner and go somewhere else for dessert, or, those kind of things. This concept is basically going to change the character of the hamlet and how it
Right.
functions from our perspective. And I think that is the concept of the project. So I think it's, there isn't really, right now there's a signal at Unity. There is no connection. So, I think if this project got developed, I think this is really what you should look at.
And as Brent stipulated in the beginning, we are reaching 20,000 cars a day. And not long ago, I had a conversation with DOT, and not if they were trying to scare me, but they said when that reaches 20,000 cars a day, that Suicide Lane does not operate correctly, and that the state could come in and actually close it.
Right.
That's what they told me.
I don't know. I'll make the example of everyone we know, like Route 17 in New Jersey, right? It's got a median barrier.
Right,
These roads you can't operate with that type of road anymore.
right.
There's a function for a center dual left turn lane, but once you get to a certain level of traffic, they don't really function very well. People use them to pass cars, they enter them long before they're gonna, look at how many driveways, you could pass 4 driveways before you wanna turn into yours.
Sure.
They create really big, safety and operational issues. And this segment of, 82 already has, there already is a high accident, location.
Right.
The DOT's identified that, on more than one occasion. All right, I don't know if I had any more slides related to this? No. Okay.
So for this.
So,
Do you think that's a one season for majority of the work or a season?
I think it'd be a 1.5 season project.
October following year, but do you
Yeah.
think the roundabout itself would be
Yeah.
functional after the first season?
Yes, I think so, yeah. I mean, obviously, not just the 2, yes, I absolutely.
Provided they start in spring.
Yes, provided you get a winter bid and they start first thing.
Oh, that would be excellent.
Right,
Yeah.
and I think, those are, a lot of our projects, we try to set up in that way because, contractors, they want to get jobs done. That's how they make money, they get jobs completed
Right.
and efficiency. So if you get the bidding set up to work correctly, then, that's ideal. But, in this case, with lots of, sort of aesthetic things, landscaping, other stormwater stuff, there would always be things that would bleed into another construction season. But I think we should get the roundabouts in and functional, within a season, within a construction season.
So just to let the public know, this is still a while away. We are preparing for this, but we just like to give you a heads up on what we're preparing for. There'll be many, many community meetings about this, so please don't worry about that yet.
Ballpark, what's it gonna cost? Leave the 376 up, what's that?
Well, we're.
6.5.
We had,
6.5 million for the first half, 2 million for the second, or 3 million for the second?
$6.5 million worth of construction costs.
So 1.2 for the town has to contribute.
And 3 million for the other 2,
No, 4 is.
4 million.
4 million for the other 2.
Yes, we added 4.4 million together too. That's the construction cost.
With a potential of $2 million coming from the state, potentially.
Of that 6 million, of that 6.5 million, well, the application was for the maximum grant, so the application was for 5 million. That's what I'm giving you is the construction cost. There's also, design, inspection
Right.
costs, and on top of that.
5 is the actual grant, or is it 80% of the 5 is the
No,
actual?
5 is the actual grant.
And we put 20% on top.
You put 20% on top of that, and then we looked at the DOT money on top of that, to help fund the full job, not the 6.5 million figure I gave you was just what we are.
So you're looking at an $8.5 million job. Yeah,
I think.
just for the first 2 roundabouts with the bypass roads.
I think Route 55 was about a $10 million project, much more impact to the whole corridor, 3 roundabouts, and, other stuff that
That's
went into
construction, inspection, design, 10 million, or just?
just construction.
Oh, wow.
$10 million job, but it's a much bigger job than
Right.
this segment. So,
Wow.
all right, any other questions on the Hamlin stuff? So the last thing, quickly, so we don't take too much of your time, I just wanted to touch on, we've been doing this quarter study on Route 52 between Blue Road and Prentice Drive, which is just a little bit east of the Taconic Parkway. It includes the intersections of Blue Hill Road, Route 376, Heritage Square in Bar 4, Hosner Mountain Road, the Taconic Parkway, and then we studied all the way up to the intersections where Taconic Oaks and Prentice Drive are. We have basically looked at some of the issues that we're gonna call like short-term, short-term things that can potentially be fixed. There are, this is sort of the segment of the corridor, we were studying the area pretty intensely by all the applications from the planning board and from our work, down by I-Park. And then, we're seeing some traffic studies coming now for, the area, east of the Taconic, for the subdivisions that are being proposed out there. So this is, just another segment that really needs to get looked at. And we've looked at, some short-term solutions that could happen to help things in the quarter, and then certainly some longer-term things. We're in the final stages of getting this report completely together and into the town. But one of the things that I'm sure most of you are aware of are some of the backups that happen at 52 and 376.
Sure.
It isn't like the worst level of service that you can have, because it's traffic does flow through there, but the queues are really long. Hundreds and hundreds of feet the queues back up here.
And
So-
God forbid there's an accident on Taconic, you can't get through 52, especially if traffic is being diverted.
Right.
It pushes it all there.
Right,
Right.
or 84 sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
So, even the addition of a simple right turn slip ramp would really benefit this intersection.
Sure.
So, that's, again, it could be a longer term solution of redoing the intersection or even considering a roundabout. That's something that could, that could really fix it. This segment from 376 to the Taconic, in this segment of the corridor we're talking about, that's the hot spot. That's where you have the most traffic. There's probably a little bit less than 14,000 cars a day in that segment. When you get to the other side of the Taconic, it drops down to about 10,000 cars a day. And then in between 376 and Limekill, I think it's probably 7,000 or 8,000. So, the corridor has its hot legs. Certainly from 376 to the Taconic is one of those legs where there's a decent amount of traffic. So that's why you're seeing some of this. Another short-term thing is just really at the Taconic itself.
Oh, well, I just want to touch on that, with that turning lane at the police station. So Scott, that's all wetland there,
Right.
right?
It's wet, but I don't know that it's DEC wet.
So, okay, so it's not,
That might be a town or Army Corps.
okay, and then what about, there's that little culvert bridge? Is there a little culvert bridge there?
To the north? Or
Yeah.
It's further back.
Right by the highway garage, yeah. So is that proposed to be widened there? So this could turn into a substantial project.
I think your taper starts past the highway driveway, so I don't know that you have to.
Okay.
But I wasn't gonna ask if you penciled in an estimate for what you think.
We are working on that. I don't have a number for you, to give you today, but we have. And we can look at, even.
The light would have to be replaced, the poles moved and the cable stretched out for this?
I don't think so. I think we can fit it in here. This improvement. Again, I think, like I said, there could be a more robust long-term solution. But I think, something that could fix a problem that's happening right now. And I think, in this case, the traffic, this study is like looking at the traffic analysis part of it. I think now that we know that we can get a really big benefit from a relatively modest improvement, what we should do is take a closer look at that, to see what those constraints are, whether it's a culvert, the poles, the right-of-way, the wetlands, and see what we can actually fit in there.
So you've done some modeling in your program, or?
Oh, yes, actually, that same VISM program that I told you that we modeled, the section we modeled from Blue Hill Road all the way up to, all the way up past the Taconic. So all of these have been modeled.
So you improved it out?
Yep.
Well, traffic used to flow a lot better in that section, coming into town, until they put a stop sign up that says no right turn right in front of a police station.
Keeps everyone honest.
Before that sign, it used to flow better, because you used to be able to pull up and go right,
I'll call the DOT.
or move the police station. You can move.
Oh, yeah, move the police station.
So another short-term thing, this might be something that can be eventually coordinated with DOT. When this interchange was contemplated and the signals went in, southbound Taconic, they put like a queue detection on the ramp. It's not a really long ramp, so if they never want the queues to back up onto the Taconic, so they have a queue detector. So if it hits that detection, it'll increase the cycle length so the cars can clear out. They didn't do that on the northbound side.
Yeah.
Because the ramp is a lot longer. The ramp's probably about 1,000 feet long. They never, at the time, didn't contemplate that ramp would actually get filled in with cars. But we're approaching that now. That ramp almost makes it back to the Taconic.
Yeah.
On many occasions. So, a relatively simple thing of putting in some queue detection on that ramp would then help to adjust, to make that signal a little bit smarter, and clear out the queues when you need it to. So that's something. Beyond that, again, at some point, and whether it's 5 years from now or 10 years from now, that, the interchange itself is something that's going to be a more comprehensive thing. you'll see some concepts in our report about, again, using like a roundabout type of interchange here. There are some things, obviously the DOT.
On 52, you're saying, at the end of?
Yeah, 52, at both of the intersections. The DOT has installed both of these park and ride lots now, so they kind of eaten up the idea of being able to make a full interchange out of this, but, again, it might be something that has to be modified down the line. Some other long-range things, we looked at, this is a roundabout concept at 376. But, the other things, like Hosner Mountain Road, what's happening there, not so much of a capacity issue, but there is a safety issue. There's a number of accidents that are happening in that segment of the road, so even maybe the modest improvement could be something like developing a center turn lane there, so that you get some of the turning traffic out of the through lane. And then Heritage Square and Par 4, depending on if Par 4 gets redeveloped, or the intensity of that development, then something might be needed there, whether it be signalization or something else. That would have to get looked at a little bit closer. And then some of the, even Taconic Oaks, I don't know how many houses are in there, 50 or 60 maybe. Even, those kind of locations, as traffic increases on the main line, some of those locations that only have one way out, they suffer the most because they have to get out, and most of them want to make a left-hand turn to go to the Taconic in the morning, and they're fighting all that traffic on 50.
Yeah, exactly.
So, those are tough solutions because, you don't want more traffic signals, but but you have to, those ones need to get looked at if there's another way to connect things or looking at some type of intersection improvement there. And then there's some lesser potential for some development in Blue Hill at the intersection of Blue Hill. Again, in that area, there could be some benefit of putting a center turn lane in there to free up traffic a little bit in that corridor leading up to 376. And you'll see that when you get our report. We're scheduled to get you that in a couple of weeks, in November at the latest. I think the last thing before, if there's any other questions, I know I've shared this with some people in the town. I don't know if any of you guys have listened to this podcast about roundabouts. I don't know if you guys listen to the podcast, and I tend to listen to them on my travel to work here and there during the week, but this is a podcast on roundabouts and the benefits of roundabouts related to traffic signals. This little area of Carmel, Indiana, where the mayor of this town, probably 3 times the size of East Fishkill, it's about 100,000 people in this community. But in the early 90s, he started to develop roundabouts in this town of Carmel, Indiana. And since then, in less than 30 years, he's built 138 roundabouts in Carmel, Indiana. If you look at that picture, look how many roundabouts you see. This is just a small portion of the town. But what he's developed and what he's convinced the people that live in his town, 100,000 people, is that these intersections work much better than the traffic signals. He's down to having only, I think, less than 10. Because I think the last time we checked, he was at 120 something. Now he's up to 138. So he has maybe 5 intersections left in the whole town that still have signals. The rest of them, all the highway interchanges and all the other intersections have been replaced.
Any idea how he's funded that?
I think in every way possible. So
that's a lot of money.
He has got a lot of funding.
Well, the cost of projects in Indiana is much lower than here.
Yeah, true. But he just gained momentum on it, and it became. It is an incredible thing. The podcast is entertaining in itself. So if you have the opportunity to, Jack put the link in there in the handouts that he gave you. But if you have the opportunity, listen to it. It's entertaining in itself, but it gives you a little insight into roundabouts and how they function. I think it's good, even anyone to look at that link. It's definitely worth the listen. It's only
That's
less
great.
than an hour.
I'd like to go back to like the right turn lane police station.
Okay.
Just ask you a generic question. So, in like the town to deal with traffic areas, like everybody's held hostage by DOT, right? You got a project like that, I mean, it's $1 million, whatever that price tag is, and you wait a lifetime for DOT to come along and fix it, right? Or you can wait for a development maybe to come along and fix it. But are you aware of like any towns that have gone ahead and just taken the initiative to say, okay, how are we going to fund this? EDA is built to improve our quality of life. We're not going to wait 20 years to do
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly improvements on state highways, you know, and it relates to the full line of projects, you know, some of the ones might start out as a pedestrian project, but then it gets into the traffic signals and adding turn lanes and all those kind of things, so, and those, you know, lots of those projects on state highways now are getting funding. The DOT their program is constrained, right, so, and nothing precludes a municipality from pursuing funding for,
So the essence, like, take this, so let's just say hypothetically, we went ahead and designed it,
Mhm.
you know, laid out that. Does that put us in a different position to get funding to complete the project if it's all been designed and approved?
Absolutely.
Does that shed different light?
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you that TAP and the CMAQ program, one of the things that puts you in position on those type of programs is they want projects that are going to be constructed. So the more that you can provide to demonstrate that this project is constructed, and it's a realistic project, it has a schedule, and it can make it out to construction, that increases your opportunity for funding
And
sources.
then that money that you put into the design and the study is your match.
Absolutely,
It's counted towards your
absolutely, yes. So,
That's great.
This one didn't quite, it's not ready for like a CMAQ project yet.
Right.
But,
I'm just talking
Yep.
forward, you know.
no, yeah, absolutely, and I think, that's something, we've been trying to instill in many of our clients of, I mean, everyone knows the term of being shovel-ready, right? I mean, it's hard to get there, but, again, whatever, in some of those critical steps that you talked about right away, those, and not, sometimes it's not acquiring the right of way, sometimes it's demonstrating that you don't need the right of way. Most people are taking guesses at the highway boundaries and things like that, but you can demonstrate where the lines really are, and you can fit this improvement without having to take right of way. That helps your project also, because it gets out of construction faster that way. So,
Can I ask one more question again, not to just kind of spot, like the two project down on 52 in Stoneville, that is before boards right now. Do you know what has any impacts like for this intersection been evaluated now? So, I don't know what they've done, but
what projects?
montage and stuff.
No. I mean, well, I should say that, it's included in their study,
Study too.
and it's also included in our study.
Because that would impact this intersection.
Absolutely. Our study incorporates.
So all we've been hearing about is the improvement right there. at the
Yes,
site,
right,
And I haven't heard much about anything
Right.
else.
No, it definitely has an impact, yeah.
So even if they may not fund the project, they may need to contribute.
Contribute towards it,
Sure.
sure.
Sure, any of those subdivisions.
We gotta
are
keep that in mind.
There's certainly gonna be, some traffic generation that comes back to this intersection, even their own studies show that, and our studies show that too. I mean, you're talking, several hundred homes, if you looked at Montage, Summerwood, Stormwell, I mean, so it certainly would have an impact, yeah.
So maybe that could fund the design part of it.
Or help it, yeah,
The design.
Sure.
Closer to just grants. And,
Right.
yeah, that's great thinking, yeah.
Right. All right,
Wonderful, thank you. Very eye-opening.
okay. Well,
And I
appreciate
hope-
it. And, again, thank you. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and, for guys to come share our.
I hope you don't listen to those podcasts all the time, Brendan.
I was wondering why he used to drive so slowly to work.
Oh, you're always passing me, right?
Very good. So we will be working very closely with Hudson Valley Engineering on all our traffic improvement programs. As you can see, we got a lot to do. We got a lot of work to do. We have a lot of traffic in town. It's not easy to come up with solutions because they're very costly. So we have to be very creative. We have to apply for grants and do what we can and try to mitigate through projects. Just like the Route 52 project, Amazon did contribute a large amount to this Route 52 mitigation plan, which is wonderful, because we had a lot of traffic problems even before they came. So knowing that they were, we made sure that we showed what their impact was going to be, and they made contributions, and we're going to get a good improvement for the town for it. It benefits the residents. So thank you for the presentation very much. And now, we're going to go discuss our town budget with the town board. Tonight is just a discussion with the town board on the on the 2022 tentative budget. I prepared the budget with the comptroller and delivered it to the town board at our last town board meeting. Tonight, we discuss, really give an overview of the budget with the town board, and on November 4th is the public hearing for the budget, where the residents come out and speak about any, or comment, or ask questions about anything on that. So, Chief, you could sit up here with the comptroller if you like. Thank you. Okay, where's my notes? Okay, almost ready. Yeah, he's getting on there. You could turn his nameplate around if you could. And I'd like to thank our comptroller, Mark Posniak, his staff, our department heads, our town board, for the assistance with the budget. It's a big to-do. It's our number one job. It's our main concern. This is the town board's number one job, is to prepare the budget for the town. And I think we created a very well-balanced and economical budget for our residents. This year, we're looking at a $27.5 million overall budget, which that includes our general fund, our highway fund, and all the special districts in town. And when you break that down, the general fund consists of about $14.8 million, our highway at 6.8, almost 6.9 million, and special districts about 5.8 million, total of 27.5 million. Thank you, Mark. As you can see that, it shows the total appropriations at the top, totals on the bottom. If you scroll over to the right, it will show you what the rate per thousand is, or the tax rate, or mill rate, as people would know, and that is proposed to be at 3.11 per thousand. Last year, our mill rate, or our tax rate, was 3.31, and it decreased. And primarily so people understand, and we've discussed this a lot, we've had discussions with the assessor, how assessments increase and they do not increase your taxes. And this is a perfect example. When your assessment goes up, your tax rate goes down because you pay the same amount of taxes. The only way the tax rate will go up is if your taxes are increased by the town board or school board or whatever governing body it is. So for the town board, this 2022 budget, we are looking at a estimated 1% tax increase, which is on average about $10 per household. Which I think, with as everybody knows, with the increase in costs, everybody sees going to the gas pump, going to the supermarket, you see all the costs increasing. Those costs increase for the town as well. So where do we come up with those dollars? Well, we have dollars that we come up through through taxes, which is approximately $14 million, and the rest are from other revenues like mortgage tax, sales tax, building permit fees, court fees, clerk fees. All those combined are alternate revenue sources, and so together with the monies we collect from the public and the dollars we collect from those other revenues equal the total budget. So, okay, the next chart shows us where we fall in between all the other municipalities in the county and other counties as well. Like I always like to say, we do have the lowest tax rate in Dutchess County, Putnam County, Orange County, with a full-time police department. As you could see, the town of Fishkill has a slightly lower tax rate than us, but they have a part-time police department. Town of Wappinger, which has the lowest in the county, does not have a police department at all. They utilize only the sheriff's department and the state police. And below us, the town of LaGrange does not have a police department at all as well. So when you look at what we get in East Fishkill at 3.11, that will be the 2022 levy. This 3.31 is indicated here because we don't know. We have not passed this budget yet. So until the town board passes it, once we do pass it, it will go down to 3.11. So as you can see, in looking at all the other towns in the area, we get a very good bargain for our buck, especially with the high-quality law enforcement department that we do have. I like to say that not only do we watch every dollar, of course we do, but other towns, they struggle. It's a struggle. We're fortunate where our police department looks to cut savings as well. I can't speak for other towns, but I know year over year we are under budget with overtime and other line items as well. So we're very fortunate. If you look at City of Poughkeepsie rate, 13.88, and if anybody looks at the recent news, there are fiscal stress scores that come out every year for the state of New York, all the municipalities, towns, villages, cities, and East Fishkill, we were as high of a score of 25 at one time. Last year, our score was 9. This year, they send you the score every year. They sent me the score, and we're at a 3.3, which, 0 is the lowest you could get. So we're basically almost 0. We have no fiscal stress, and that's because of the money management scenarios that we put in place. The City of Poughkeepsie, unfortunately, they were, I believe, the second or third most fiscally stressed in the whole state.
They're in the top 3, yeah, along with the Village of Wappinger.
Right, so if you look at your taxes on your home, if you're in the City of Poughkeepsie, if your home is worth $300,000, you're paying almost $4,000 in city tax. And in East Fishkill, you pay under $1,000. I'm sorry, $300,000 home.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a big difference. So, like I said, I do like to tout that East Fishkill has the lowest rate in Dutchess, Putnam, Westchester counties with a full-time police department, because it's true. Our next slide show our historical spending trends. As you can see, our spending is relatively flat over since 2011. Our highway expenditures somewhat flat as well, and the combined fund balance has increased significantly since 2014. So people say, well, why, if your spending is flat, how come taxes increase? Well, there's other unknowns, like I discussed earlier. There's other revenues. Out of a $25 million budget, only $14 million of that, almost 15, is collected from taxes. The rest are from other revenues. So perhaps those revenues could go down. It's always a guess. That budget is a guess. So we are not sure what our revenues will be for mortgage tax, sales tax, building permit fees, clerk fees, court fees. So we take a guess. Sometimes those revenues go down. Excuse me. So that's why taxes increase slightly. Like this year, we're proposing a 1% tax increase. Like I said before, roughly $10 per household. Why? Because we don't know what those other revenues will be. COVID did throw a curveball to everybody, all municipalities, and we were looking at a significant loss in revenues. Very quickly, the town board acted in 2019, and we did a hiring freeze and a spending freeze right away, which those proved to be very valuable for us, as our fund balance, as you could see with the green line on there, has increased year over year. That's because we kept our expenses down. Our hirings, our spending, and Today, we have about $5 million in our savings account, our town savings account, our fund balance. I believe that last year we were about 3.9 million, so we've increased a little bit over $1 million. And this year, we're possibly going to add another possible $1 million to that as well. We don't know yet, because we don't know what our final numbers for 2021 will be until first quarter ending in 2022. So once we do, we will let everybody know what that is. But this just shows you, this chart, how fiscally conservative we are and how our spending trends remain relatively flat. Next chart. Where did the property taxes go? Everybody says, where does the money go? Where does the money go? Well, this chart shows you exactly where the money goes. 76% on average is your school tax bill. East Fishkill is comprised of 4 different school districts: Wappingers, Carmel, Arlington, and Pauling. They have different tax rates, of course, but if you look at your combined property tax bill you get in September and the bill you get in January, you can add those up and see that on average 76% is for the school. 10% roughly for the county, 10% roughly for the town, 3% for the fire district, and 1% for the library tax. So I'd like to make a mention about tax pilots, because we've been discussing that lately, as there have been economic development in town, several projects on the Route 52 corridor, Amazon, now Pepsi is building a facility. They asked for the county for a tax pilot, which gives them a scheduled payment of taxes. So if you look at those districts, the school, the county, and the town, those are what is scheduled. The fire district and the library taxes and any other special districts, if they're in a water district or a sewer district, do not count. So any of those taxes, they will pay full rate, which is great for the fire district and great for the library and all our infrastructure districts. So I just would like to make a mention of that. Any questions about that or the pilot? How the town money's being spent. We like to keep it a third, basically. We try to. Roughly about 32% is for our police department and 35% for our highway department. I believe in the last several years that's flip-flopped. It used to be about 35% for the police and 32% for highway. Well, we've been increasing the highway budget. We need more paving. Everybody knows that. So this town board is dedicated on producing as much paving as we can, diverting all the dollars we can. And sometimes we do have surpluses in police lines, which if there's a surplus in any line, it goes to the general fund. And the town board can allocate that any way we see fit. And we have been allocating more towards paving. So thank you, Chief, for keeping the overtime as low as possible. The highway superintendent is very happy about that. The other roughly third is for the town hall, license permits, planning, zoning, assessments, all the administration, and the rest for recreation. The parks, the camps, the classes, the rec center, the senior center, all our wonderful recreation, and everybody knows our recreation's second to none, so. And just a few notes, the tax cap will not be exceeded. The East Fishkill Town Board has never exceeded the New York State mandated tax cap, and I always like to say we never will. I hope we never will, but we will not in the 2022 budget. The average homeowner is to pay about 1% more in 2022, which is about $10 on an average home. Like I say, in Dutchess, Putnam, and Westchester counties, we have the lowest tax rate or mill rate in all those counties with a full-time police department. Our fund balance has been growing. Like I mentioned earlier, it's currently at $5 million. We're expected to grow about $2 million this year. We're hopeful. Mortgage taxes have been very, very strong this year, which is Every month when we get the report, I send it to the comptroller, and he says, wow, every month it's wow. So, which is great, because we don't know how long this will stay. We don't know how long this housing market will continue, so we need to keep our savings account high for the years when we are very lean. We are increasing the highway paving budget. We are currently at over $1 million now in our paving budget and our drainage budget. So we also have other avenues of paving. The town board passed a bond last year, which we use as we see fit for certain paving projects, and we have been using some of that this year, and we are looking to do some of that next year. The problem is some people don't understand is the drainage has to be done a lot of times before the paving can get done. So sometimes we can't keep up. As I mentioned earlier, we had a hiring freeze. We haven't hired from 2019 certain positions, and a lot of them were in the highway department. So we can't do everything with our men and ladies. So what we try to do, we try to get subcontractors, but as everybody knows, it's hard to get them. Hard to find subcontractors to do jobs. So we're doing as much as we can, though. And the minimum wage will increase from $12.50 to $13.20, and that primarily does increase our part-timers in the summer, our rec, our camp, and a Red Wing, because we have a lot of young men and women who work there. They are seasonal, they are part-time, and we have to adjust accordingly. So that will increase until it reaches $15 an hour, which was in another year and a half, 2 years, 2 more years. 2 more years.
They have now said, it used to be a fixed 70 cents per year. Now they're saying they will take other factors into account. So economic factors will either accelerate or decelerate.
Or decelerate, okay.
That increase.
So that takes an impact on us as well, because that affects the town, it affects our budget lines. But that's just a basic overview of the budget. The town board has had the budget to review and look and discuss, and like I said, we will have our public hearing on the 4th. I'd like to open up for comments, questions, discussion, anything we can.
Do you suspect that our court income would be almost restored back to normal next year?
Yeah, we've, budgeted a number that's close to what we had seen prior to the COVID shutdown. That was one of the areas where we saw a significant decrease in revenues over the past year and a half.
It's crazy to think that we're like the busiest court north of Westchester, right?
We're the 6th busiest court north of Westchester in the whole state, the 6th. Yeah.
But a majority of that money doesn't come to us.
It goes to the state. Yeah.
Yeah, roughly half,
We keep about half.
Yeah.
And the rest
which
goes
is
to county and state.
significant. But yes, that did put a damper on those revenues for 2019 and 2020 so far a little bit.
2020.
I'm sorry,
yeah,
2020,
you're off.
2021.
I lose track too.
Yeah, I get distracted with the years.
And that was no fault to, our court staff. They were shut down by order of the state for quite some
Yeah,
time.
it was a tough time. The COVID times were very tough. We had to constantly change our planning. We didn't know what to do. There was no guidance from the state. So basically, we were on a shoestring with everything. But our staff was remarkable. My hats off to the department heads, to the staff.
Yes, I agree. all of
Really,
them.
everybody did a tremendous job.
Mark, what do you see as the biggest concern in the future? How are the pension costs been? Do you see any increase in those?
Yeah, so we've had a really good run for the last 4 years. We've had operating surpluses in each of those years of fairly significant amounts, which has built our fund balance up, and if you include this year, it will be $6 or $7 million. Some of that was due to really good planning and decisions by the board, which was to encourage economic development in the town, to contain spending, and those things were direct results of decisions you made, but some of it is beyond our control. We've had some good results with mortgage taxes. We've had really good results with sales tax, and some of our costs, including the pension, have been flattened or even reduced slightly due to really good market returns. You know, I don't have a crystal ball, but I would expect that we see some kind of correction in the market, which is going to drive up that pension cost. We may see mortgage taxes sort of drop down to a more normal number, and those things are going to have an impact on our overall revenues, and that's why it's nice to have the cushion we do in fund balance. So yeah, I do think there are economic factors beyond our control that are going to, you know, create either reduced surpluses or
Right.
operating deficits.
And that's why our economic development is so important. We need to bring more businesses here, pay more taxes to increase the pie, because otherwise then we gotta get it from the same old taxpayers. We need new taxpayers.
Right. And are there other avenues that we're looking into in saving money, cutting costs?
Yeah, I mean, that's a constant theme, really. We've got staffing levels here, you know, at the lowest point in 20 years, because every time an employee retires or moves away, we examine the position, see how it needs to be filled. So, you know, that's a constant sort of effort. We putting out an RFP for insurance. Maybe we get a better rate, maybe we don't. This is, you know, efforts to look for. We have a utility audit happening now. It's free of cost to us. If they find any ways to reduce our utilities, and we pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in various utilities. If they can find savings, they take a portion of that. But yeah, so there's a variety of cost-cutting measures that are always happening.
So a couple of points I just wanted to highlight, going through the budget, which is pretty sound, and it's a good budget. We're still paying for the MTA tax.
Yeah,
So it is not a big amount, but we're still
it's
paying about
Point,
72,000 a year.
3-4% of our
Yeah.
payroll, yeah.
And you also, I see that you're projecting for mortgage tax for 2022, higher amount, so you still pretty much feel strong that the revenue will be coming in.
So I think that this year's mortgage taxes are going to be about 2.1 million in total.
Well, we didn't budget for a higher mortgage tax for 2020 because we didn't expect the pandemic to.
We didn't expect the,
Right.
yeah.
That's why it's,
Yes, so the mortgage tax results have been significantly above budget for the last 2 years, and it's been a surprise to me as, you know.
Every
But I think
month.
people are moving out of the city, congested
we're seeing 'em.
areas, and yeah, and, so what's being budgeted next year is $500,000 less than I think we will get this year, but it's still $600,000 more than we had been seeing on average for, say, the prior, you know,
Yeah, that's not gonna
7
last forever.
years. Yeah, it's so, I do think it's gonna reduce, maybe not to the pre-COVID levels, but
And the other small comment that I want to make is just basically, since we have, like the town supervisor mentioned before, trying to increase our budget for paving. So the question is both to the town supervisor and the controller. I personally would like to see a little bit more money allocated to that, since right now we're coming into like more money revenue-wise. I think it would be prudent to invest. I look at it as an investment because we don't know what tomorrow could bring. I remember years ago, we were thinking about raising taxes for that purpose. We were very smart not to do that and wait for the better days, which right now, we are at that point. With some of the new developments coming in, we feel very comfortable that our revenues are gonna go up. And so, I mean, my comment would be to probably, I would like to see
Well,
that line,
What I think what we should do, Councilman, if you don't mind me saying, is we've increased it, we're over $1 million now. Like I said, and you know, you're the liaison to highway, we have to prepare drainage.
Right.
So even if we shift some more towards drainage, and then we wait to see what the first quarter will bring us with a fund balance, because we are projecting a surplus this year, because we have tightened our belt a lot this year.
Right.
So we are gonna foresee a savings next year from this year. Let's see what that is, and then perhaps then the board will vote on utilizing some of those savings towards paving.
We can move it over.
yeah.
It also sounds silly, but we should also, like, you know, if the weather happens to be good and prices of asphalt drop for whatever reason, we could add more roads on towards, you know, the middle of the year next year too.
Absolutely,
Have the
just like we did
flexibility.
this
Just
year.
like we did
The
this year,
councilman called me with the highway superintendent about a month ago and said, you know, Dogwood Knolls, they're doing drainage. I think it's a great time for us to pave it. So we had the bond dollars. We said, let's do it now, because we knew that asphalt's gonna increase possibly next year, just oil's increasing, everything's going higher. So we quickly acted, the town board, then gave the approval to pave those roads. So we definitely could do that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the reason that we decided to do that now is like, they are, you know, the company that was doing the job thought that for sure next year, the prices are not gonna be what they are this year.
Right.
So we thought that it was, again, a smart move to invest a little bit more this year, because it would have cost us probably an
Probably
extra.
save 75 to 100,000.
It would have cost us a lot more,
Yeah.
definitely. So, and also in my notes, I add that, yeah, like even, I would like to see even the drainage line increased by $100,000. I mean, these are small amounts, but I think could buy us a lot of preparations for the roads. Even now, when we talk to people, I think a lot of people, when are you doing my road? And we do have a plan, so,
Still a big issue.
yeah. So, those are my only, sorry?
No, I said finish.
Oh, yeah. I think those were the only, and also as far as salt, winter snow removal, we don't know what that is going.
If that's savings as well, we could transfer that to
Right.
paving, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
How are we looking going into the last 3 months with the budget line for winter?
So I don't think there's gonna be much of a surplus this year, but I think we do, my understanding is we have full sheds, so, you know, I think we're good, but I don't think that.
Salt-wise,
Salt-wise, and I think we'll be fine for the year, but I don't think
what
there's gonna
about-
be.
We might be
What about
at
surplus?
budget.
Yeah.
What about like overtime and all that kind of?
At budget, maybe.
budget.
We're
We're
hoping.
open.
So-
Hoping, yeah.
Open to stay at budget.
So the only thing that we should be concerned, and that's gonna be probably an issue, the bids that are going out for snow removal, they're not coming back. People applying for those jobs, because the private cannot fulfill those jobs. So they're not committing to taking those bids.
And I do think salt costs are going up next year too, from what.
So that is an issue that we probably should kind of think how we want to resolve it, because in a month or so, we might get hit.
Yep.
And that's going to be, so Peter, start
Just around the corner.
getting your heavy-duty clothes and goggles, because you're going to be snowplowed.
You know, the other thing I noticed about the budget, chief, is a few years ago when he was the liaison to the police department, they got the most money. Now he's the liaison to the highway and they get the most money.
I have
Did you
to,
notice that, chief?
I have to say one thing that I have to commend the chief. I mean, I looked at their budget, they've been saving a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
These guys are saving a lot of money. So their mentality of taxes spent has changed in the last few years.
Absolutely,
Thank you, chief.
absolutely. And Mark, out of that $2 million bond that the town board approved this past year, how much have we utilized?
Not much.
So that was the other mention I'd like to say, with a $27 million budget, our townwide debt is roughly, not counting special districts, about 1.7 million, would you say?
That's about right.
Yeah, so compared to $27 million budget, 1.7 million, we're in significantly good spot. Sitting pretty.
If we really needed to, so.
Right. And when, speaking of the fiscal stress scores, I was mentioning earlier about City of Poughkeepsie, they're in terrible fiscal stress. I believe they have a $60 million budget, but they have 90 million in debt. So I don't know how that, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair if that was the spot.
You remember a few years back, they had to wait a few days before they removed their snow because they didn't have
I think so, they didn't have it, right,
It's all about how you spend that buck.
right,
It's all comes
Stretching
down to
stone.
that.
absolutely. Councilman, anything?
That's it.
So like I mentioned earlier, our public hearing is on November 4th. The public could come out, please look at the budget, it's online. Come and speak about any line item, anything that you see in the budget that you have a concern with. That's the time to come out. I'd like to thank our comptroller again for all his hard work and his staff, all the department heads, the town board, for helping with the budget. And with that, anybody else have anything?
I just want to make a comment. I finally stopped by again today at Dogwood Knolls. That project came out unbelievable. The community is very happy. The roads over there, they look amazing, and we were able to also pave a couple of roads in Hillside Lake,
Oh, that was good.
and maybe a couple of other roads before the end of the season. We don't know yet, but
When do the plants close? Do we
they
know?
say as long as the weather, probably the end of November.
Around Thanksgiving, it's the first week of December.
Right now, they have a lot
Depending on the
of,
weather?
He was saying yesterday, he
Yep.
thinks it's patching stuff.
they have a lot of big projects going on with the Taconic, so they're gonna stay open as long as they can.
But again, temperatures.
Right.
What, for the plant to operate? Is that how?
You don't wanna put the top course down.
Oh, just for putting the blacktop down itself, not for the plant. They could produce it at any time.
If they're taking a base or binder, you put that down on the flexible.
Right.
Some people have to take these regardless of the temperature, but for us, we want to make sure we have proper temperature before we start our top course.
Okay, great. So with that, our next town board meeting is October 28th, 2021, and thank you all for joining us. Have a good night. Good, Jesse?
How would you give us nothing?
Oh, yeah, that's,
Budget on
the
this.
budget would have, he blew the budget there, right?